Welcome to SocksOutRacing as we cover Race 3 of the 2015 Spec MX-5 Open at Okayama International Circuit. The race took place on the 11th of July 2015. Weather was still warm at 86 degrees Fahrenheit with a southwest wind at 5 miles an hour, but the cloud cover is a little bit higher than we've seen in previous races, being mostly cloudy. Strength of field was 1741, and our top qualifier was Giuseppe Iannucci with a 150.224. So as we get everybody on the grid, you'll notice that our pole qualifier, Giuseppe, is not present. He'll actually be starting from pit lane. So that's going to shift the dynamics of the race a good bit. We also have three newcomers to SOR this week with Scott Johnson, Steve Osborne, and Gabriel McCloskey all sitting in the back of the field. Now, an interesting thing to note is that the lap times from second back to seventh was only about a second apart, so just to give you an idea how close these cars were running in qualifying. At the start of the race, you'll notice the 17 car struggling to get off the line, and Steve Osborne wastes no time getting to his outside. So as we enter in the first corner, you'll notice we've got two rows of cars going too wide, and as we go into Williams, it looks like Scott Johnson does get in front, and he's currently sitting third. You got Trip Smith running fourth. Steve Osborne looks like he's going to tuck in there nicely into fifth position, and Steve is sitting there. Oh, whoa! Steve is not giving it up. Fox is just sitting there up, but he gives it up as we go through Atwood Curve. So it is going to be Scott Johnson in third, Trip Smith in fourth, Steve Osborne in fifth, and Steve Burbage in sixth place as the field starts to settle out. And we got Steve Osborne making a move as we go into the fifth corner of the track and the famous hairpin curve. Oh, and 17 has to check up a little bit, but is able to get around the 28 and a beautiful pass to the hairpin curve. Oh, and trouble coming out of the revolver as Scott Johnson hits the wall hard. Looks like everybody made it by just fine, which is very good, especially considering the last thing you want to do is get caught up in some mayhem on the opening lap. As we come around through Hobbs, we can see the leaders have kind of distanced themselves from the mid-pack, and we still got a pretty good battle going on third back with three cars. You've got the 69, the 17, and the 28, all still pretty close, and then you have Johan and Mulder sitting up there in the front of the field. So as we get into lap 2, everybody's kind of spread out a little bit, starting to settle in for the rest of the race. But this doesn't mean people are taking it slow. Everybody's looking for every little ounce of speed they can get, and you probably saw Giuseppe take a peek out of the first corner in that last camera. But let's go up and look at this battle for first. We've got Johan just leading the field, doing a wonderful job managing pace, but you got Mulder following him in the 68, trying to keep up. Mulder knows if he gets out of sight from Johan, Johan's going to just be gone. That's the way it worked in race 2 and it worked in race 1. So looks like Mulder's just figuring if he can just keep up long enough, he might be able to find an opening. Through the revolver, I mean, the cars are just incredibly close here. All it would really take is one driver just getting a little bit off, a little bit loose at the wrong time, and it completely shift the positions. As we head through Redmond and Hobbs, finishing up lap 2, I mean, you can see Mulder's just pushing that car for every ounce's worth. But if you notice, Osborne's sitting there and he's starting to catch up a little bit as he distances himself from Burbage and Smith further back in the field. And we hit lap 3. Johan's starting to get his groove going with the race here today as he starts to pull away from Mulder. You can see as we're going through Williams, he's already started to put a gap and just that short of amount of time. Um, and you got Osborne just sitting there just hauling the car through Williams, chasing him down. So just in one lap, you can see how much of a gap Johan's put on the number 68 car in second. So, I mean, props to Mulder for holding on as long as he has. Johan is definitely a very quick driver. Has been very quick throughout the series so far. So, keeping him in sight is a challenge in and of itself. Meanwhile, back in 5th place, the battle for 5th, you've got Giuseppe starting to close in on the 28 car. Now, Giuseppe was about a good second quicker than Johan in qualifying. And it really does show here. I mean, you look at where the rest of the cars are struggling to get through the corners, but I mean, Giuseppe's car is just carrying so much more speed. As we go back into Redmond, he just gets right around Tripp and just a wonderfully executed pass there. And Redmond's actually one of the better spots to set up a pass in a braking zone. Redmond's a good corner, and the hairpin corner, turn 5, those are probably 2 of the best spots as far as hard braking zone passes to set up. As we head down the back straight, I'm not quite sure what happened, but it looks like Osborne and Burbage have tightened back up, so either Burbage picked up the pace in the 17 or Osborne's in the 69 has slowed down a bit. But Giuseppe's not wasting any time closing them in either. Now, Giuseppe missed last week, so he's really eager to get those points and finish well here today to put him back in contention for a top position overall. As we again go through Atwood, you can see the 2 cars battling it out, but Giuseppe's quickly closing that gap. It looks like he'll probably catch up with them as soon as we hit hairpin again. Into the hairpin, Giuseppe taking a look to the inside, but decides not to follow it through. 17 goes wide. Giuseppe looking to set up on the outside. 17 holds him off. Boy, that was some tough racing right there. As we go through Piper, and looks like Giuseppe's going to pull the exact same move again at Redmond, and he does. Wonderful, wonderful pass. Looks like the 17 is going to try something on the outside, but cannot carry enough speed to Redmond to put up a ply as we go through Hobbs. Mike Knight corner. The 17's already fallen back from the 55, but Osborne's wasting no time seeing the battle behind him and just putting the pedal down and try to get as much distance as he can from the 55. Lap 5, and Giuseppe is moved from starting in pit lane to challenging for the 3rd place position. So just give you an idea on how fast, or how much faster Giuseppe's car is. And it seems those last minute changes really did pay off despite starting from pit lane and having to make up that extra time. As we head down the back straight, one thing to highlight here is Atwood Curve is probably the most crucial corner on the whole circuit because it does lead to this really long straight. Thankfully the cameras today really do a good job at showing just how long that back straightaway is. As we go through the revolver again, Giuseppe seems to be taking the same line he took when he went to go past the 17. Will he pull a hat trick at Redmond at today's race? He's right behind Osborne. He's taking a look. He's on the inside. And, oh, he does it. Going for the inside around Redmond again. as they come through Hobbs. Giuseppe is now sitting third in the race, as Osborne and Burbage follow closely behind. You can see Johan up ahead is pulled away a fair amount from Mulder, still with an eye shot, but definitely has a nice safe margin there as we enter lap 6. So Giuseppe now in third is starting to chase after the leaders. However, it is not until lap 7 that he catches up with Mulder and starts making a play. As we continue following this battle for second, Giuseppe on the outside, we got Mulder on the inside as they approach the first corner. Now this is going to be one of those interesting corners if you go too wide, because you got to trust the other driver, and Mulder's in. Oh, they're going a little wide. Mulder has to get off the throttle to give Giuseppe the room and loses the position as we enter Williams. So Giuseppe's now in second place. Oh, and a little off. So as we approach Atwood, will Mulder make a dive to get his position back? And he's looking at it. Oh no, trouble for the 55 as Giuseppe seems to over-rev the motor. And that thing is just spewing smoke. It looks like he's going to have to park it and get it towed back to pit lane. That is really disappointing for Giuseppe. Meanwhile, further back, the battle for 5th is heating up as Tripp has reeled in Burbage as they're going down the back straight after Atwood. Well, I guess now you could say they're running for 4th, with Giuseppe having to get a tow back to pit lane at this point. Through the hairpin quarter, and Tripp really goes in heavy as these two continue to battle it out. As we move ahead to lap 11, the battle for 4th continues, and Tripp is still right there on the back end of the 17. As we go through Mike Knight and through the last corner, you just get an idea on how just the pace of this. However, Burbage goes a little too far in on Mike Knight corner, gets a slowdown penalty, and Tripp gets an easy pass as we begin to lap 12. Meanwhile, up front, the battle for second again heats up. This time it's Mulder and Osborne going head to head as we go through Williams. Coming out, Osborne taking a little bit wider. Mulder shuts the door. Going through Moss. Looks like no gain for either. Oh, into Atwood. Osborne late on the brakes. Mulder trying to take it hot. Doesn't work out. Mulder thankfully stops the car and keeps from going an adventure off-road, but Osborne takes second place away. A great performance to the SOR newcomer. Really setting this pace and the stage for this race. As we go back to the battle for 4th position, 17 dives down hard on Tripp going into the hairpin. This seems to be a really popular place to close ground with these cars. We've seen a number of drivers do it today. It just seems to be really working well to how the cars are just set up. And Burbage is really just putting on the pressure on Tripp here. As we go into Redmond, we're going to move back up front because trouble hits the 69 as he realized he chose just a little bit too light of a fuel load and is going to have to pull into pit row to get just a splash and go. So Mulder gets a lucky break and gets second place back again. So this just seems to be a lucky race for the 68 car. Moving ahead to lap 14. What started off as just a battle for 5th place somewhere in the middle of the back of the field has now turned into a 3rd place battle. Tripp is really starting to feel the pressure from the 17, just right there knocking on the door. The Fox is ready to bounce. Going down the back straight, I mean the cars are neck and neck. 17 taking a look to the inside as they approach hairpin. They're going in side by side. How's this going to work out? How's it going to work out? 17 goes to the inside. Tripp cannot hold the momentum on the outside line, so the 17 gets around the 28 car. Just another just setup there at the braking zone. As we move forward again to lap 16, Tripp's wasted no time chasing the 17 car back down. As we go into turn 1, 17 goes wide, Tripp goes in, coming through Williams, Tripp closes the door. 28 takes back third place, and Burbage is definitely not happy about that one. I mean, talk about just a slight miscalculation at the wrong time. We mentioned it earlier. Uh, it's just a huge thing. 17 trying to make a play in Atwood, just doesn't quite pull it off, and it ended up being kind of detrimental, as it's not until lap 17 that he starts to close in, and this is the final lap, this is the final play, just running out of time. 17 pitches it hard going into Piper, too hard, into the grass, car gets loose, can he save it? No, into the wall. That puts a big dent in the side of the car, and he had to limp it back home. So today's race winner was Johan Hallberg. Just a fantastic performance for today's race. Mulder just had lucky break after lucky break and takes home second. Tripp finishes third, and just Giuseppe, despite everything that went wrong, he still took home fifth, and as for our newcomer Steve Osborne takes home sixth. Looking at point totals from the race, Johan again brings home 19 points. Mulder, for the first time this season, has taken his first qualifying points, as well as Giuseppe taking home 3 qualifying points for today's race. As we look to series point standings, Johan Hallberg brings it home. He's got 55 points. Burbage brings 36, moving him up to second. However, this does not factor in the one race dropped of the lowest points. So with that factored in, it changes the point structure quite a bit, as Johan only has a 2-point lead over teammate Eronam, and Steve, instead of being in second, moves actually down to 6. So now we have quite the battle shaping up for 4th and also for 10th place as we enter race 4 at Road Atlanta. So a lot on the line here for many of the drivers in the field, so it should be an interesting race. Just as a reminder, we will have a 60-minute practice lobby that'll open 2 hours prior to the race lobby opening to get in that last bit of practice before the race starts, and then the race will start promptly at 1500 Eastern Daylight Savings Time, so 3 o'clock Eastern, or 1900 GMT for those that are on other time systems. So we look forward to seeing everybody on 18th of July 2015. So until next time, keep it between the lines.